Hi everyone, my name's Dan Packer and I'm not Sailash Patel. Funny story. So this is really where it all began. So INEOS Automotive. So this is the Grenadier pub in London. You can tell it's the Grenadier pub because it's got the sign above the door. But there's also like a little red shed in the corner, which apparently is where Grenadiers stand. So I can sort of relate a lot to this because when I've gone to the pub with my friends and I've had a few beers, I do some quite irrational things. It usually involves waking up the next day and 4 or 5 boxes delivered from Amazon. Now, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, whose office is INEOS Global around the corner from this pub, went to the pub with some of his friends, had a few beers, and they decided to launch a global car company. And they were going to call the new car the Grenadier. And that's exactly what they did. For those who don't know Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he's Britain's richest man. His company turns over something like $60 billion. He's made his money from buying businesses that other people couldn't make any money out of. So he's bought a lot of chemical businesses from BP, Shell, and he makes them efficient. And he decided that when Land Rover stopped making the Defender, he liked the Defender and he could see a gap in the market. He was going to start his own car company. And this is really where Sailash came in. So he came in and was asked to design a strategy and execute for data, insights for this new company. He was told the company was going to sell its first car in 2023. So he had 4 years to build all of the analytical systems above SAP and all of the operational systems within the space of 2 years. Also, the company was going to be run in the same way that Sir Jim runs the rest of his companies, which was maximum efficiency, very small team, very small budget, no room for error, absolutely no room to miss any of the deadlines, because if they don't sell the cars, all the money they've invested in, goes down the pan. So that was the backdrop. I'm going to pass you now over to virtual Sailash.
My name is Sailash Patel, and I'm here today to talk about data analytics and the INEOS Automotive journey so far. The journey started in the Grenadier pub in 2017, which is just around the corner from our London headquarters in Knightsbridge. At that point, a commitment was made to build a car company and bring the first vehicle to market in 2023. A new INEOS business was created to realise the market opportunity for a utilitarian 4x4 vehicle. This was the start of something big. About the Grenadier itself, well, it's a vehicle that provides best-in-class off-road capability, durability, and utility. It's capable of supporting those who depend on a vehicle as a working tool. But our overall mission is to build an uncompromising 4x4 that works for the world. I'm now going to go on to talk about our data analytics program and how that all started. So as a program, our business drivers were to consider how anybody looks at the purchase of a vehicle, but you can actually apply this to everyday life. You start off by thinking about a budget or a type or a make or a model or the color or the size or the fuel, many different aspects when thinking about purchasing a vehicle. What you typically then do is gather data from a website or from reviews. You'd collate that together in a list or a spreadsheet, you'd present that data by comparing the costs and the make and the model and the size, and then you'd analyze that decision with the decision maker. Eventually, you'd execute the decision and purchase the vehicle, and after maybe 3 to 5 or maybe even 10 years, when the finance had expired or the lease ended, you'd reevaluate that decision and start all over again. So effectively, this is the cycle of decision making. And data analytics programs are central in the decision making process. Data analytics programs help facilitate the decision making process, which allow business teams to make decisions and act. With our business drivers in mind, we started thinking about what our overall challenge was. And essentially, it boils down to automating the collation of data from multiple source systems so that our business can make decisions using cross-functional data and save time and money, and essentially answer the who, why, what, when, and how questions. Once we understood our overall challenge, it was time to think about the overall domain. And I believe the domain is depicted by this pyramid of essentially what are objectives. At the bottom, we have the acquisition of data. The role of the data analytics team is to acquire the data from different systems. Our role is then to govern that data, to understand the people, the process, the data quality, the master data management, and lots of things in between. We also then help collate that data, integrate that, ingest that data, model that data, potentially put that data into a data warehouse, and build data marts. We then help our business analyze that data and produce dashboards or management analytics, or eventually help with data science. And lastly, we align our objectives to the overall business strategy. As everyone should know, that what gets measured gets done. So if we look at the top, we start by analysing our ROI, and then we have individual business units who analyse their KPIs. My role, heading up data analytics, is to analyse the total cost of ownership and ensure that the solutions that we use provide value for money. We also analyse the SLAs to ensure our users know when issues will be resolved. And finally, there's operational OLAs between different source parties. Once we'd understood our overall domain, we started to think about our overall vision. We looked at the centre of our vision was the business. And this was governed by 4 key pillars. Firstly, the output. We wanted to make sure that we could provide actionable insight, something that could drive decision making, help profitable growth, and with operational efficiency. Our second pillar was scope. We were looking at all data sources, all data types, and all types of analytics. Our third pillar was experience. We had to make sure that the end user experience was secure, quick, and easy. And finally, we wanted to ensure that there was a business benefit. We need to make sure that whatever we produce helps the business, informs the business, and enables the business. Once we'd understood our overall vision, we would then consider our overall goals. Again, the business was at the centre of our goals. We are looking to provide cross-functional insight from manufacturing all the way through to marketing, make sure that we presented information with integrity, and having no debate over whose answer is correct, and also ensure there was business unity, reusing and reutilising the same resources. We then considered our scope. We were looking at management reports, management dashboards, and predictive analytics, and considering the future state. In terms of experience, we had to make sure it's secure, reliable, intuitive, and simple. And lastly, in terms of benefits realization, we had to make sure that the technology that we chose was adaptable for our business and for any future changes in technology, and was overall low in cost and low in complexity. Once we have understood our challenge, our vision, our goals, and we had to move on to our objectives. Before we even identified our objectives, we ran a comprehensive RFP. That RFP allowed us to identify that many solutions were required to deliver data analytics capabilities. And this infographic shows you everything that needs to be covered when considering any data analytics program. Overall, data analytics projects are challenging in terms of complexity and cost. I was given the remit to essentially reduce the cost, complexity and cost of the program. So what did we do? Well, we decided to take a greenfield approach for a greenfield vehicle. Once we'd understood our vision, goals and objectives, we started looking at our reference architecture. Regardless of source system, we'll have structured data from relational databases, application data sources, semi-structured data from web logs, and unstructured data from things such as media files. We understood that we had to ingest that data, which required a means either through extract and load, replication, API, or message bus. In the build component or build element of the data analytics program, we had to store this data, raw unformatted data, and we ingested that into a data lake. We would then extract and transform that data, model it onto a data warehouse, in our case Data Vault 2. We then take that data, extract and load that onto a presentation layer to meet the individual use cases. But this allowed us to have one central data warehouse and reuse the data multiple times. Overarching all of these elements was data management and data lineage, essentially tracking the master data, monitoring the data quality and cataloging the data to understand where it came from and what it represents. And then data security and governance, governing the data access to ensure it stays secure yet accessible by those who need it when they need it. And lastly, not forgetting the bit that everybody or the business really care about, being able to analyze that data, query it, report on it, have a dashboard for it, or eventually do some data science. Once we'd validated our reference architecture, it was time to think about our own solution approach. We'd evaluated solutions on AWS, GCP, and Azure, as well as SAP Analytics Cloud and Palantir. We decided to take an hybrid approach. We had to consume data via Sitecore, which is our website, Siemens from our manufacturing engineering systems. To consume the data from these systems, we created an Azure API gateway and extracted the data into our SAP systems, which for the data analytics program is the golden source. In terms of governing the data in the data analytics platform, we utilized Click Enterprise Manager, which allowed us to monitor the data ingestion from source to target. We overlaid this with end-to-end security through Azure Active Directory and multi-factor authentication. To collate the data, we utilize Click Replicate, and to build our data warehouse, we use Click Compose. This is where the QDI solution comes into its own. Replicate allows us to consume data in near real time, which means that we can facilitate any future business requirements. Compose came with a series of SAP accelerators, effectively templated data warehouses and data marts, which mean that we could build our data warehouse in a significant reduced space of time. Provided out of the box, you have accelerators for order to cash, procure to pay, inventory management, and FICO. Finally, we utilized Snowflake for our data warehouse solution. We felt that this was the most elastic when it came to data warehouse solutions in comparison to Amazon Redshift and Azure Synapse. There's true pay-as-you-go and true horizontal and vertical scaling, which meant that for future use cases such as OT data or data science, we had the capability in place from the outset. In terms of analyzing the data from our data warehouse, we opted for Power BI, predominantly because we wanted to introduce self-serve analytics for our end users. We also embraced MS Excel because every accountant likes Excel, or pretty much any business user, and it plays nicely with Power BI. And where we had use cases, we are utilizing Power Automate. With all of these solution architectures in place, it effectively meant that we had aligned on our strategy for allowing our business users to be able to query their data, report on their data, create dashboards, and implement data science. So coming on to the overall reason for why we took this approach, ignoring the data acquisition and data governance, because effectively both were secure, accessible, efficient, consistent, adequate, adaptable, low cost, and complexity, the real driver behind INEOS Automotive's decision was to, when comparing the buy versus build opportunity. My 25 years of experience in this field tells me that building data pipelines from SOP datasets is exceptionally hard, and this is where the accelerators increase speed of delivery. All we had to do was essentially map any of the custom attributes in our SAP system to the existing accelerators. Once we had done that, we effectively had a data warehouse and data marts for pretty much every module of SAP. With that in mind, it also is very secure and adaptable. And I've already covered Snowflake, but essentially it's also scalable and adaptable to our business needs. And when combining these things of Qlik and Snowflake, we've achieved our vision and goals and objectives. So once we decided on our solution approach, it's time to think about our delivery partner. I approached Qlik to identify a delivery partner because I understood that some capability was required for QDI, especially since INEOS Automotive wanted to have a conform data model. Catalyst understood our common solution architecture and had the skills and capabilities needed to deliver on our requirements. They understood the Qlik accelerators, and they understood how they would build a conform data model, reusing dimensions and facts, so that our business units were always comparing apples with apples. Our delivery partner also helped us implement a common delivery framework using Azure DevOps. By leveraging an agile methodology, we ended up with a unified delivery strategy and unified processes and procedures, which meant that our business users could understand what they would get and when. When combining these elements of our common solution architecture, a common delivery framework, our outcomes have been conform data analytics. But more importantly, we've had unified outcomes in terms of synergy and value and decision and actions for all of our INEOS Automotive business units. That's principally because of the delivery capability that Catalyst has brought to INEOS Automotive. And I thoroughly recommend their services if you're looking to do something similar. This concludes my presentation about the data analytics journey for INEOS Automotive. Like the Grenadier, which has been built on purpose, so is our data analytics program. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. The details will be provided by Catalyst. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Virtual Sailash. And I promise we didn't bribe him to say those kind words at the end. So I think I'm in danger of getting shepherd's crook off the stage by the marketing team because they're worried that we're going to run into the afternoon matinee. So all of these points are Sailash's, which I probably don't or can't comment on, so we're just going to skip this slide. Quick plug at the end, if you are interested in building a data warehouse, learning the lessons, come and find me afterwards. We're collating a list of people who are interested in attending this round table. If you've got any further questions about what Catalyst's role are, come and find me afterwards in the networking event. Myself and Richard Brown, who is actually the real brains behind the services we delivered, will be there and can answer those questions. So thank you very much.